single dad took in widow, and HER4 kids cast out by family, unaware become his daily miracle. From the moment the storm slammed against the rusted metal roof of Ethan Ward's tiny house, he had no idea that the people trembling on his front porch would change his life forever. He had spent years learning how to be both mother and father to his own daughter after tragedy ripped their family apart, but nothing had prepared him for the sight he found that night. 5 shadows standing in the rain, a broken family with nowhere else to go, a widow clutching her youngest child while the others shivered behind her. And yet, as lightning split the sky, something inside Ethan shifted in a way he couldn't explain. He didn't know it then, but the very people he let in that night, out of pure instinct, pure humanity, would become the miracle he never knew he needed. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of helping someone when they need it most, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to K&H Stories right now. Your support keeps these life-changing stories alive. Ethan Ward had been living a quiet, almost mechanical life since the passing of his wife 4 years ago. His daughter, Emma, only 8, was his anchor and his motivation, but raising her alone had carved deep lines of exhaustion across his heart. Every day was a rhythm of early shifts, small meals, worn-out shoes, and lonely nights where he wondered whether he was doing enough for her. The world felt heavy, but he carried it because he had to. So when he opened the door that stormy night and saw Maya Collins and her 4 children, ages 5 to 13, standing terrified, drenched, and silent, he recognized something he had seen in his own mirror for years: the desperate attempt to stay strong when life was falling apart. Maya's story was written all over her trembling hands and hollow eyes. She had lost her husband in a sudden accident that shattered every stability they had. Instead of compassion, her in-laws blamed her, accused her, and finally threw her and her children out of the house they once called home. With no savings, no family, and no one willing to help, she had walked for miles with her children in the cold rain, praying for a miracle. Exhaustion had brought them to Ethan's road, and fear had forced them to knock on the only house with light still shining. Ethan didn't think twice. He ushered them inside, gave the kids towels and blankets, offered warm soup in cracked bowls, and helped them sit near the heater. Watching the 4 children, little Lucas curled against his mother's shoulder, the older 3 clinging to each other, Ethan felt something unfamiliar swelling in his chest. Emma, usually shy and cautious, gently sat beside the oldest girl and handed her a dry sweater, trying in her own innocent way to share comfort. In that moment, something fragile and beautiful bloomed in the room: the unspoken understanding of people who knew what pain looked like. The first few days were challenging. Ethan had a small house, barely enough for himself and Emma, but somehow they made room. He gave Maya his bedroom while he slept on the couch. The kids shared space however they could, pillows on the floor, blankets double-folded, shoes drying near the window. There was noise now, the kind he hadn't heard in years. Footsteps, giggles, arguments over who got the last piece of bread, whispers late at night. The house felt alive again, and Ethan didn't fully realize how much he had missed that sound. But life was far from easy. Feeding 5 extra mouths meant stretching groceries until they almost tore. Ethan worked extra shifts, even took on tasks no one else wanted, just to make sure there was enough. Some days he came home so exhausted he could barely lift his arms, but when he saw Maya trying to sew torn jackets or the kids doing homework on the floor, something kept pushing him forward. Maya, in turn, helped with everything she could: cleaning, cooking simple meals, caring for Emma as if she were one of her own. Sometimes Ethan caught her watching him with quiet gratitude, the kind that words could never express. But it wasn't just responsibility that grew between them. Hope did too. Slowly, cautiously, like a fragile flame that could be blown out if either of them breathed too hard. Yet the world outside wasn't kind. People whispered in the neighborhood. Some said Ethan was foolish. Others accused Maya of taking advantage of him. And when word reached Maya's in-laws that she had found a place to stay, they came knocking with anger and threats, demanding she return or give up the life insurance claim that was rightfully hers. Ethan stood between them and the terrified family, blocking every attempt to intimidate or manipulate. He had spent years carrying guilt, loneliness, and grief, but that day something inside him rose with strength he didn't know he possessed. He had lost too much in his life to allow anyone else to face that same cruelty. Slowly the seasons changed. The children began to laugh more freely. Emma had friends now, siblings she had always wished for. Maya found part-time work, and together she and Ethan managed to keep the household afloat. They learned each other's habits, how he liked his tea, how she hummed when she cleaned, how the kids loved bedtime stories, how Emma felt safer sleeping near Maya on stormy nights. It was becoming a family, not the kind built by blood, but by compassion and survival. Ethan started noticing moments he never expected, how Maya's strength showed even when her hands shook from fear of the past, how she comforted others despite being broken herself, how her smile warmed the coldest corners of the house. He didn't dare acknowledge the feeling blooming inside him, not yet, not when she had already suffered enough. But the children noticed. Emma noticed. Even Maya felt it, though she was too afraid to hope that someone could ever choose her again. The turning point came one evening when Ethan returned home early from work and found the kids making handmade thank you cards with scraps of paper. When they saw him, they jumped up and practically tackled him in a hug, chanting about how he saved them, how he made them feel safe, how they wished they could stay forever. Maya stood behind them, tears glistening in her eyes, struggling to speak. In that instant, Ethan realized something he hadn't allowed himself to see. These people weren't a burden. They weren't guests. They weren't temporary. They were his miracle, his healing, just as much as he had been theirs. As days moved into months, the connection between Ethan and Maya deepened silently but undeniably. They were two broken souls learning how to breathe again, finding comfort in the smallest gestures. Shared morning routines, quiet dinners, tired smiles when the kids finally fell asleep. They weren't rushing. They weren't forcing anything. They were simply healing beside each other, grateful for the unexpected chance life had handed them. But life tested them one last time. When an unexpected illness sent Ethan to the hospital for several days, Maya took over everything, caring for Emma, managing the household, working long hours, barely sleeping. She never left his bedside, whispering prayers he couldn't hear. The children wrote little notes for him, placing them under his pillow. And when Ethan finally opened his eyes and saw all of them sleeping around him on chairs and the floor, something inside him broke in the most beautiful way. This wasn't just a family formed by circumstance. This was love, real, raw, and unshakable. Ethan returned home to find the house sparkling clean, dinner warm on the table, and 6 people waiting for him with the kind of joy people reserve for someone they truly love. And when he stepped inside, it felt like stepping into the life he had long believed he would never have again. If this story is touching your heart so far, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in humanity, and subscribe to K&H Stories to support more emotional true-to-life stories. Your engagement truly keeps this channel going. Ethan eventually gathered the courage to tell Maya the truth, that she and her children had given him something he never thought he would find again. He didn't promise perfection. He didn't promise a fairy tale. He simply promised to stand with them, protect them, and build a home where love grew from kindness, not obligation. Maya cried harder than she had the night her world fell apart, but this time the tears were full of hope, not fear. The children surrounded them, hugging them both, declaring that they had known it all along. Emma held Maya's hand tightly, smiling with the quiet acceptance of a child who understood that families are sometimes chosen, not inherited. Their life wasn't perfect. Money was still tight. Work was still hard. But the house was full of laughter, full of warmth, full of second chances. Ethan, once a lonely single father, now woke up every day to the sound of 6 voices calling his name, to the smell of breakfast cooking, to the gentle presence of a woman who had taught him how to live again. And every night he thanked God for the miracle that appeared on his doorstep during the darkest storm of his life. Before we end, please comment below. Kindness creates miracles. It supports the story and helps spread positivity. Ethan never imagined he would one day raise a beautiful, blended family built entirely from compassion, courage, and the willingness to open a door when someone needed help. But that single act of kindness became the beginning of a life he never dared dream about, a life where broken pieces came together to create something whole, something healing, something miraculous. And in the end, he often looked around the noisy, chaotic, love-filled home and realized the truth. He thought he saved them, but they were the ones who saved him.